Hello, I'm Ed Marsh. Welcome to Signals from the OP, my bi-weekly video blog on which I highlight potentially controversial ideas to provoke some thinking by executives and board directors of mid-sized manufacturing firms. Please share it with any business leaders who you think might find value. Now, it's often said that the attributes we find most offensive in others are those which we find objectionable in ourselves. It's kind of projection. I'd say it's also a form of hypocrisy, and it's a type of hypocrisy that I commonly find among manufacturing companies these days. And I'm calling it out because it compromises their sales effectiveness. So having made that assertion, I've probably immediately gotten sideways with anyone watching, so let's dive in. At one level, it's simply self-delusion. I often hear from manufacturers that their buyers are different. Their industry is different. They don't search online, they don't use chatbots, they don't watch video, they won't download helpful information, etc., etc., etc. Let's put aside the question of a rising generation of managers and leaders for whom those behaviors are quite common compared to the generation after making those assertions, and let's just look at the industrial sales facts. The same people who tell me that then turn around and use the internet and consume information. Sure, they may prefer to turn to trusted peers for recommendations rather than read online reviews, and they might not opt for a chatbot. But their behavior is designed to find the easiest path to the best answer possible. And that's no different than their prospects, each of whom is an individual with preferences, biases, distractions, priorities, and immense time pressure. But at a different level, it's really disturbing. In this context, I want to contrast what I hear executives and sales organizations complain about, and then what I see them do. And then I'll tie it to their sales force effectiveness, or not, you might say. Common complaints I hear as a B2B sales consultant about prospects and buyers include things like nobody answers their phone and it's really hard to get our reps to the table for meetings. People often want a quote for something to solve a problem they've incorrectly self-diagnosed, and when we try to educate them, they're not interested. We have to discount too much. Everyone's hesitant to make a decision because they want proof a solution will work before they'll try. We've got lots of deals on hold because prospects have capital spending freezes because they're worried about the economy. And, we can't get to real decision makers. All of those make sense. Each is indicative of weakness and training opportunities in various sales competencies. Prospecting, consultative sales, value selling, uncovering compelling reasons to buy, establishing the value gap, and reaching decision makers are all skills that can be trained to improve sales effectiveness. With a big caveat. Every sales rep has a firmware. Certain mindsets that may limit their ability to benefit from training. If that's intriguing, by all means, please reach out, we'll dive deeper. But for now, the point is that let's take discounting. Discounting, for instance, is a function of breakdowns much earlier in the sales process. It's a symptom of low sales force effectiveness. It's also often a reflection of your company culture, and that's incredibly corrosive. Here's what I mean. One of the basic lessons of leadership is that the behavior you model is far more powerful than the behavior you discuss. Pitter-patter trumps chitter-chatter. And sadly, many companies routinely model buying behavior that both costs them credibility and sends a clear and deleterious message to the sales team. For example, anytime a president, CEO, or VP comments on the steps they take to avoid sales outreach and the disdain they have for salespeople trying to reach them, they send a message to their team that salespeople aren't worthy of speaking to the C-suite decision makers. Every time someone in the company copies others on an email or speaks into the phone within earshot of others and says, "Please stop trying to sell me something else, I know what I want. Just give me a quote for that." They tell their sales team that they must respond to buyer inquiries to avoid annoying them. Every time they send someone back to a vendor to ask for a discount or ask procurement in a staff meeting how they're doing on their KPI of grinding down vendors, they reinforce that businesses should discount to get business. Those all degrade sales effectiveness. Further, every time someone brings them an idea internally and senior management shoots it down because they're just not sure it will work, they confirm that it's okay to defer to the fear of messing up, letting risk aversion guide their decisions. Just as every time the company announces that they're pausing investments, scaling back on revenue growth, marketing and sales investments, and recasting the forecast, they confirm that it's only reasonable that smart companies stop investing preemptively for fear the economy might sour. By doing these things, they teach their team that sales competencies don't matter because they have to defer to the market and buyers. For sure, there are poor salespeople and others selling crap who don't deserve a busy CEO's time. There may be situations where some form of discount, like a rebate against larger future orders, makes business sense. And if your revenue is in a free fall, you have to preserve cash. But how often do companies do this to themselves? By basically affirming every lame, ineffective, and excuse-making sales rep by manifesting precisely the behaviors which they then complain about in prospects? The answer, if we're honest with each other, is way, way, way too often. We hurt our own sales effectiveness. So here's my recommendation to you. Just as you may work to be on your best behavior before young, impressionable kids at home, as a leader of a company that must sell in order to stay vibrant, you've got to be on your best behavior all the time at work. Of course, it's not just not saying something. You must really reject this hypocrisy as part of your company culture, reiterate all the time, and call it out when you hear people reverting to old habits. Otherwise, you're just a hypocritical company that sounds pretty silly complaining about prospects. I'm Ed Marsh. I'm a B2B sales consultant that helps industrial manufacturers identify gaps in sales competencies that cost them revenue and help them boost sales force effectiveness. If you found value in this episode of Signals from the OP, check out the full playlist and maybe even like it, share it, and subscribe, either to my YouTube channel, edmarshspeaks.tv, or at the related blog, signalsfromtheop.com.